So, uh, welcome back everyone. Just starting the recording. So, yeah. So, next session, and in this session, we'll finally cover the data save mechanism, and in that data saving mechanism, we basically create a few different screens now, a login screen, a game over screen, and then we'll save the data to a text file or a CSV file or something like that. And again, there are multiple ways of doing this. We'll look at one way of doing it, and we'll in that try to explore two variations of implementing the same thing. And then ideally today after this, I would like to talk about some other concepts with you. One would be uh, to how to set up your start setting up your portfolio. And after that, we'll start with AI. And so let's see, I'm hoping that we'll at least get to see some demos in AR. And start where we left off. So this is where we just left off. And what we have implemented is a pickup system. We have implemented some UI for displaying ammo. We have displayed health. And now what we want to do is basically create some login screen as well. So for that, let's just straightforward go ahead and create a login scene. So we'll create a new scene, call it login, and let's just call it login scene. And in this login scene, all we want is just uh, the easiest thing that we can do is take one player input. That one player input would be username, for instance, and then we'll apply some conditions to check if depending on, like I said, we'll check two variations. So one variation of saving data would be we create one data file and keep on iterating in the data file and adding new data, users data to that file. Or we can create a new data file for each user. So in the condition that we are right now, the way that we have implemented the game, we don't really need to uh, create one separate file for each user. Why? Because that would be required in a scenario where you are asking your player to come back again and again or do something in the environment that requires multiple saves. So, for example, if you have created a game or let's say some kind of a psychology experiment, right, where you're displaying something and checking how the player is reacting to that. So, displaying something would be like, for example, uh, instead of in a room, we are basically uh, kind of doing an endless runner for a shooting game. So each time instant where an enemy comes in front of the player will be a time instant where we want to store the data of how the player responded, how much time the player took to respond. So that will be something called as reaction time, or how much time did the player spend, or how many bullets did the player spend on killing that one enemy. So this is event-based data that we want to save, but that is not how we have set it up. But we'll also look at how to create just one simple change in one line of code will help us create that kind of a setup. If we don't create that, and then we'll be able to set up differently. So let's start. And in login screen, what we'll do is we'll create two things. One would be an input field. And let's go in the 2D mode. We are already in 2D. Uh, let's scale it a bit. This much looks okay. And let's center it. Shift Alt Center Canvas. And let's add a button as well. So UI button, and scale the button just a bit, not too much. And shift all the center. It's already there in the center. We need to take it below just a bit. So maybe minus. Yep. That looks okay. So what we'll do is the player will come here, enter username. So we'll change the name of the input user field to user name input field, and the button would be to login button. And inside this placeholder text, so this is the, if you remember, we used this before. So placeholder text will change to enter your user name. So that's it. That's the setup that we need. So now we'll create a few scripts, and it's also like right now, if you see, we've uh, kind of made a mess of the project that we've created. Inside our scripts, we should also try to segregate it more inside our animations like we've done, right? So we've done for weapons separately, for zombies separately. And in weapons also, we could have made more folders. So similarly, we should be doing for our scripts as well. But that is something that will help you in creating long projects and help you manage large projects. But for now, we'll just use this only. So we'll create a script. We'll call it login script. And if you remember, for something like for a button to act, the script should be attached to some game object in the scene that will never be destroyed. So for that, I'm choosing my main camera. And I'll also like to change the background to a solid color and maybe just make everything black. Black. This color looks okay. So this is where my script is going to be. And now let me load up the script and write some functionality. It's very straightforward. The first thing that we want is obviously uh, input field, access to the input field. So public, this is how we use the input field from text mesh pro. So when I added this, you see that this got added using TM Pro. I think we've seen this before as well. And let's call it uname input field. Okay. And we need a string, which would be a file path. So data file path string, and then we can also have a string for username, user name. So like actually storing the username that we get from this input field, right? And that's, I think that's all the setup that we need. And now we can basically create a function and which will be called when we actually press the button. So public void login, let's call it, right? And when should this login happen? So the first thing that we need to do is get the text from the input field and check if this uname is empty. If it is empty, then we want to do some things. If it is not empty, then we want to do some things. So what do we want to do if it is empty? We want to basically tell the user to enter something. So let's get access to the text that we have filled in. So the placeholder text. So we need access to the placeholder text. So we can get it through this thing. So what we'll do is we'll do text mesh. So it is a text, right? So we've seen in the past that we use text mesh pro UGUI to access the text. So place folder text, and this text would be converting it to text. Mesh Pro UGY and uname if dot placeholder. So kind of straightforward. And actually, let's get it outside because we might need it somewhere else as well. So maybe let's not start. Let's get it here only. So, and all we can do now is placeholder text dot text equals, please enter your username. Okay, so if it is empty, then we'll do this. If it is not empty, then we'll give a file path, and file path will be application dot data path. So data path is basically the path to the game data folder on target device. And then we also have persistent data path, contains the path to a persistent data directory. So these are the two methods that you can use to create the data path, right? And this will work on any device. So for now, let's use data path. And in this data path, what we want to add is access. So this is where that thing comes in. If you want to add it as like what we can do here, if we do uname plus, let's say we are doing .csv only. So if we do this thing here, uname, then we can basically essentially create a new file for each username. And if we, instead of this, we just say, let's say we do data, then just one file named data will be created here, and then we can append to it. So first, let's do it with this method, or actually first let's do it with that method, and then we can change it because that's just, this is the thing that we need to change, right? And once this is done, then let's set a few things in the player press. So player press dot set string. So player press, you remember to take the data from one scene to another and basically making the persistence, like actually keeping the persistence there. So what we'll do is one thing we'll store is the file path. So let's call it file path, and let's give it the data file path. And one more thing that we want to save is graph start section is the username. So for username, let's use user name and give it uname, and that's it. And then what we'll do is we'll call a function create file, and in this let us pass the data path, and let's create this function. So in this, let's call it path, and in this what we want to do is check if file exists or not. So file dot exists, sorry. So to use this file function, so this file is basically a method, like it's a class in the system.io username. So we can basically include this namespace using system.io. So now we can access file dot this class and file dot exists, and we'll check if path exists or not. If it does, then we want to do certain things. If it does not, then we want to do certain things. Right? So if it does exist, and we are, if you see that we are using this right now. So if it does exist right now, then what we want to do is ask the player to change it, right? So for that, we do placeholder text created data field. This thing basically I wanted, which inside that function. So I think I create it outside here and maybe create it in the function. Yeah, so placeholder.text equals just straightforward. This entered user name already exists, and that's all we want to do. And also basically what we want to do is set the username to null, which should be this string, this uname dot I text. So this thing to null, right? I think we have to check which one do we want to set to null. I think this one only, because this is the one that's being displayed there. So if we set this to null, then only we'll be able to see the changes. And that's it for now in the else. And if the file does not exist, then we'll create a file. So file dot write all text. So this is a function. And what does this function do? It will take two arguments. One would be the path, and one would be what do you want to write, right? Okay. So what we want to write, like this is when the file is being created. So this is where we are creating the header of the CSV file. So what we'll create is username, comma, ammo, comma, health. So these are the only information that we know about the user, and we are capturing in the game. Maybe we can store time or other how many kills he made, depending upon whatever information we want to store. But right now we only have this much, right? And after this, what we want to do is call the scene manager dot load scene, and now the number will become 1. Earlier it was 0. So if you remember, somewhere I placed number 0. I think it was here. What was it here? Yep. So here now I want to change it to 1 because login becomes scene 0, right? So we go back here in our build settings. We'll add open scene and we'll make login as the first scene. So that's that. Coming back here, let's add it here, and that's it. So now when we run, like go inside, we will create a file for this. But let us just set it up properly, and then we'll test out everything at once. So what we have done is we have created two layers here already, which we need in our saving the file. But as you can see, we are also saving ammo and health. So let's go and see how we can save these things. So to save these things, we'll go to the, I think shoot script has everything. If it has an update function, it will be straightforward. Yeah. So all we can do is in our update function, just update player health, not player health, sorry, player refs dot set int. So our this thing ammo is int, right? And how much ammo do we have whenever we die would be equal to carried ammo plus current ammo. So set int and let's call it ammo carried plus current. and also player prefs dot set float health. This we would get from uh, the health script. So for that we have created a singleton there. So player health dot singleton dot current health. So what was the health at the time we died? So this can actually be a deciding condition if we won or did we lose, right? So we can actually have a game over or game one kind of thing. So I think this is all that we need from here. Let me check if there's anything else. Mm, yeah, I think this much is enough for now. And we'll need to add game over conditions, but we'll come back to adding those conditions. So now we have all our information or the data that we need in our player prefs. So now we can create one more new scene, which would be our game over scene. And in our game over scene, what I want is only text mostly. So game over text, and this is going to be static. So I can just write game over. Let me duplicate this, then I'll scale this a bit. So this is my main text, right? The kind of the header of the scene. Accidentally open this. Not bad. I think I'll change the background color, something more dark. Yeah. So I have this game over. Let's center, center, center. And next we want to display something, some uh, things, some information that we had. So username would be there. And username and two more things we had. One was uh, text, one was health. So actually let's keep it left aligned only. Yeah. So we spread it out a bit. Username, ammo, and health. So this is the information that we are going to show. And if you want, we can make it a bit big as well. Depending upon how we choose to show the information. Right? This looks fine for now. And now let's write a script here to basically display these things, right? So you can just have one game object empty, and this can be centered, and this would be called display. So to display everything, we will write a new script, display score. So this is in the display itself. We'll also save the score. So we'll do display and saving together. So for this, we need again to create some string items. It should be file, username, ammo, and health. And we need to create some text mesh pro UGUI to show those things. Text mesh pro UGUI, and this is going to be public. This also we want user name, ammo, health. Oh, this we can't create like this. Sorry. Oh, actually, we could have created it like this, I think, but we can't name it the same thing. So ammo, text, health, text, and username, text. Sorry, my bad. So this, and then here, just in the start function itself, we just get the things from the player prefs. File equals to player prefs dot get string, and for file, what did we write the string as? File paths. For uname, again similarly copy this. Instead of file path, now we had username, and for ammo we had get int. So we have ref dot get int ammo, and okay, so this is a string, so I don't think we need to use it as an integer, so we can just convert it to string here now. Ammo and then health would be layer prefs dot get, sorry, print get float health dot string, and just call a function name as display, and this method will basically just username dot text equals to uname, and same for ammo dot text equals to ammo, health dot text equals to health. So display is done, and let me just check if I read this correctly. M and health. That's correct. So display is done. Now all we want to do one more thing is save it. So for saving it, uh, here only we can save it, or we can create a new function, save file. And in this save file method, we'll create a new string, name it data. Data would be equals to, actually we'll pass the data from here. So data, sorry, string data equals to name plus comma, because if you remember, we have a saving a CSV file, which is a comma separated file. Comma, comma, that's the health. So that's all. And quickly we'll check if this is the thing that we got. So username, comma, comma, health is what we wanted to store. And this save file will pass data. In this we'll get string data. So here all we need to do now would be file this thing dot append. So right, if you remember, last time we wrote uh, this thing, write all text. Now we are doing append all text. And also we'll change, need to pass this as well. File. Inside here, file, comma, system dot environment dot new line. So this is basically to add a new line in the file that we have, because our right pointer is going to be into system. I think I did something wrong. Into this is a string. This will also not fix. Connection is data is a string, path is a string, file dot append all file. Could work. System, but let me check if I have system dot in, so I can remove this, I think. Uh, Let me check how to do this once quickly. This is how it should be working. Not sure why this is not. Let me try doing blue string. here as well. I think I've written anything wrong. So this would be my file, which would be the file, and then this is what I want to pass. So not sure what I did wrong. Mm, You can try this method, which is something simple, and then we don't need to do this. It's not letting me add anything here to string of data. I have to pass just data. Yep, this is something else. Is the issue, not this thing. So what's that? Mm, mm, uh, I try to do it here. I just try to spend a few more minutes on this if this works. Otherwise, we'll move on and try something else. So remove this. Still here it's fine. In file, if I don't do it here, means I don't have this function, and then I can use working. I think was I using append all lines? Yeah, this is the mistake. I was using append all lines. I think that is the mistake. Let us try append all text. Yep. So append all lines probably uses some other form of string or whatever. So we can look into the error later and come back to that. So now I just need to do system. Sorry, not environment. New line as data, and it has been passed here string. Yeah, so now all set up for this. Sorry about the time it took to figure this out. And yeah, so now what we need to do is all we need to do now is basically set up game over condition, and from the game over condition we want to set up the movement in the scenes. So build settings and add this one. So now we have 0 as the login scene, 1 as our main scene, and 2 as our end scene. So now let's set up a game over condition. And to set up that game over condition, we need to go to and what we can do is also add one more button here to basically, let's say we want to restart the game or quit the game. So I'll also add two buttons here, UI buttons, and we'll do restart button or quit button. And inside restart, let us put restart, inside quit, and scale both of them a bit and move it to restart over here and put over here. So problem minus, or let me actually shift all this position. Restart would be shift all this position, and then 100, 350, and that would be minus 200. For quit button, 350 and 200. So this is how finally the game of scene will look. And let us quickly add quit and restart functionalities as well in this only. So public quit, and we have a application.quit which only works in build. It does not work in during while you're checking this. So this will basically end your application. And then let's run public void restart, and restart should basically scene manager dot load scene and loads the first scene. we should also set up the functionalities of the button. So for that, we need to add the game over script here and add all the things actually. So which script was this? Display score. So display score is here. And let's add username text, ammo text, else text. And in our button, let us add new in camera, and in the display score we had a, this is the restart button, and similarly quit button. So this scene is done, and I think we did not set up the button in the login scene. So let's do that. Login button, let's change the text to login and set up the button functionality. I think it's called login. Yeah, so this is the function that we want to call when we log in. So yeah, I think most of the thing is set up. Now all we want to do is the game over condition. So one game over condition is when the player dies. So that is going to be here in player health. And let me just create a static method now. So public static void game over. And in this, all we want to do is scene manager dot load scene 2. So we want to load the game over scene. And we can call this once the enemy, when the player is dead. So here and here we'll call um, shoot dot how did we name it? Function game over. So straight away we can just call this when the player is dead. And the other condition could be that all the enemies are dead. So all the enemies can be dead. And how do we check? How do we check that? And we can check that by basically in our update function, let us see if the, so right now we know that the number of enemies that we are spawning is 3. Do we have somewhere where we have set it up? We have a spawner. So let's go to our main scene and set those things up. And we'll come back to it. So our spawn trigger is basically defining 3 points, and each point is just a point. It's nothing. So spawn trigger is where we define how many enemies are going to be there. So in our, we need this spawn trigger function. Yeah, so what we can do is we can have a public I don't think count will be useful, but we do need a public static enemy is active. So this boolean, so that we can check if the enemies have been activated or not, starts with a false. And once this thing works, then we can set this to true. And then going back to shoot, what we can do is check if enemies, what is the name of the script? Enemy spawner, me spawner dot enemies active. So if enemies are active, then we want to check the count of enemies again. So how do we check the count of enemies? What we can do is game object dot find game object with tag, and we want enemy tag. Let's see if we have that. So we do have an enemy tag, and length. So if the length is less than equal to 0, then we can call the game over. So we are calling game over when there are no enemies in the scene essentially. But when are we checking this? When the enemy is active. So when an enemy is getting active is when the enemies are actually getting spawned. So let's see if this works. And actually let's start from the start now. I think we have set up everything. So let's go to the first scene now, which is our login scene. Let's start from here. Trying to input the class, it's just so thing. And I think we need to set it up there as well. Or did I do something wrong somewhere else also? I doubt I've done anything else wrong. It looks fine to me. Let me see the error. Yeah, it's not showing anymore. So I'll just quickly go to the game over scene and this also needs changing. So that was just to change the input system to the new input system. So the one that the event system that was there was the old input system. So testing it, site test, login. Okay, so this is because lighting in our scene is not baked. And to check that, what we can do is, for now, let's just add one directional light, which will light up the scene, but obviously we can bake light. So lighting is one topic that we have not covered. So I'll share resources in that, or we can cover it in the next few sessions slowly. So let me start back here. Test. So this username has already been used. So we can change the text size and everything also as desired. Right. And let's try test. So now enemies get spawned. And enemies are dead, but they're still in the scene. So once they go away from the scene, then I think we'll change scenes. That did not happen. Okay, something probably went wrong. So what to do in the shoot script? We did this. We're checking if enemy what length as long as enemy is active. So let us see if this is working. Let us debug this. Oh, it's this less than 0 should be equal to 0. So now just, and anyway, let me debug this, and my other dead condition, game over condition, is this one. When the enemy dies, this is there, and this should be there. So yeah, so just last try. For some reason my mouse is not perfect. So you see the number of enemies in the screen was 3, now 2, now 1, now 0, and here we are. So this is the username. This was the health. We quit. When we click on quit, nothing will happen. But when we restart, okay. So there must be something wrong. Like we'll need to write a script to not let the mouse pointer not be displayed, but yeah. And let's see if our file is being created. So refresh. Yeah, so this was username, and this is basically a CSV file that will open in Excel if you want to view it. So test was the username, ammo, and file. So other two files were also created. That's why we were not able to do anything. So this, when you're testing, this will be the folder will be created inside your assets folder. And if you're not testing, if you're actually build it, then it will create to the application.data path, which would be inside the data folder in your build Windows build. And this method does not work on WebGL as far as I know. So there are obviously different methods to store this in your database, create local databases, create online databases, everything is there. And what I do need, so that error where I'm not able to click anything inside the game view, game over scene, can be resolved by adding a function to in our script. The script we can add a check to assert this thing that the mouse pointer is always displayed. So we can do that, but I think we are out of time for today. So this is where I'll stop, but I do want to continue next time and talk about uh, your portfolio and start with the development. So that's all for today, but we'll meet next time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.